Suddenly, we will be live. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to this edition of the Octopus Movement podcast. I am so excited to bring Hayley Joy Weinberg here. Hayley is a potentiate, and a potentialite who has been choosing a path of, just like her middle name, joy, and being extremely flexible on that path while being driven to empower women all over the world in all shapes, sizes, forms, and loving beings that they are. So, welcome, Hayley Joy. We are so glad to have you. And tell me, you are in the octopus movement and you've been here for a long time relative to the length of the octopus movement. And what drew you to the octopus movement in its beginning stages?
Nice to meet you, Lydia. This is the first time we've met, so thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've been there from the very beginning, from when Perry, like before Perry even had this idea of the octopus movement. I met him I think in a chat room on Clubhouse or LinkedIn, and he had me, like he literally had me in the first like minute that he mentioned the word multipotentialite, because it was just something that I'd never heard the word. But for me, it has such a beautiful resonance. It's so positive, like to be multi-potential. And I realized in that room with him that I literally had been given wings to fly as this newfound multi-potentialite, where my whole life I had been viewed as scattered. And I tell the story a lot because it's so interesting that in all of my travels around the socials and the internets that there's so many people that come up to me and say, I'm so grateful that you talk about being scattered and then finding out that actually there's a positive to it. And that was my introduction to Perry. I found his story fascinating as well, that he'd gone from all these challenges to like just being so knowledgeable about being multipotential. And then his whole idea came to start a movement, and I suggested to him that um, he should watch my octopus teacher. I had watched it. It was during lockdown, and I had watched it, and I was just completely blown away by it. I had goosebumps for days. And I said, you should go and watch this because it will blow your mind. And he watched it and he came back. He said, that's it. I'm calling it the octopus movement. I'm like, well, it makes so much sense, doesn't it? Because if we're multi-potential, we absolutely have many arms and legs and things. And so I was there from the very beginning. And I must be honest that it's been incredible to watch it grow and take on all these different personas, because it's evolved as it's gone along. And I'm sure that for Perry, it's also had some very different outcomes to what he had first intended. But yeah, it's just been very interesting to watch it. So here I am, as he's saying, I was number one. I don't remember that, but thanks, Perry. If I was number one, I am honored to be number one in the movement.
That's a pretty incredible honor. That makes you sort of a founder of founders.
I'm like the real OG.
That's right. I love that. So you were there and you observed Perry's bringing this to fruition from struggles. This is what you just mentioned. And how do you see that whole trajectory and that whole the scope of, we think of trouble, and we think of what we're striving to do, and sometimes they don't meet. But that is something that is not so evident for people in the octopus movement. We find ways for these to meet and flow. And have done that, and you've watched Perry do that. So I'd love to hear what your vision is of what this flow is like from being scattered, from having troubles, from having strife, to being pretty darn happy.
So it's interesting that you bring that up, because on Monday night in a founding members meeting, Perry actually asked me a really interesting question that got me thinking. And I am doing a lot of writing, and I'm documenting a lot of my thinking because I have a plan for it. And he asked me if I'm always happy. And I thought about it. I said, yes, I am, because I have spent the last 20 years working at being happy. So, people see you for the first time and they go, wow, you're so lucky, you're so happy. They don't know where you've come from to get to this point. But I had a really profound moment in my life, probably about 20 years ago. And it led to me understanding that there are things called choices. And when I embraced the fact that I have a choice, I have a choice to unsubscribe from how my parents lived their lives. They did the best job they knew how. I always say, I don't think they did such a bad job. I mean, that might be open for debate, but in my mind, I think they did a pretty good job based on like their lives. But I had a choice to unsubscribe. So I could live the rest of my life going, oh, I grew up in a home that resembled World War III because my parents fought a lot, and they did fight a lot. I don't need to follow that path. I have a choice to unsubscribe from that. I entered into an arena in my working world that was contentious in the days when I didn't have this power within me to make choices. When I decided to not allow the outside noise to influence how I was going to serve my community, and I just made the choice to do it my way, whether it resonated for the outside world or not didn't matter, because I was choosing to do it for my community. I wasn't choosing it to impress the media or to impress other fashion designers or to impress anybody, in fact. So again, it came down to choices. And in the last, so I mean, and I've hit some really rocky patches along the way, which I believe, universally, I believe they're there to test how committed you are to this choice thing. I really believe that, because every time it happens, I have that moment where I go, universe, you're testing me again. I'll show you. So today I am able in a split second to recognize if this is going to serve me or not. And if it isn't going to serve me, I know I have a choice to absolutely unsubscribe from it. And there, Karen said, we have a choice to unsubscribe. And that's exactly it. I unsubscribe from everything. I don't listen to the news. I don't engage in negative conversations, but it is a choice. And I'm also very aware of toxic positivity, because that is a whole other conversation, because it's a real thing, toxic positivity. Oh, I'm living my best life, and I'm living my best Instagram life. Well, I'm not. I am working every single day to make sure that I preserve my mental health. And how do I do that? I've built a bubble around myself. And I've come to understand that I'm not being selfish. I'm just being self-serving. Because in order for me to be happy, I need to not engage in things that rock my world. Listening to the news and having inflammatory conversations rocks my world. So it doesn't serve me. So I just don't go there. I'm very inquisitive. I love any new little shiny object that pops up in the world. I'm all for it. Sometimes I do it for a day, a week, a month, and then I'm like, nah, not for me. The whole AI thing has just blown my mind, and I'm loving every minute of it. I understand it's not for everybody, but it's definitely for me. So when I get into conversations where people go, oh, AI is going to destroy the world, and oh, AI is evil, and oh, I'm like, guys, it's 2024. You better start embracing it, because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. And if it's not necessary in your world, that's fine. But you don't have to make it this very negative thing and scare those who might be thinking about it. I'm all for it.
So true.
And if it doesn't work, then don't do it. So that's how I stay happy.
As you've gone in so many directions, as a true octopus, gives us so much to think about. And so going backwards from where we just were, the AI is something that we created out of the nature that we saw, and it is a metamorphosis that we have gone through ourselves. We can be afraid of us, because metamorphosis is sometimes frightening, because it's the unknown. And if we are scared of it and choose to be very, what is the word, to be extreme, just and not embrace the good in it. It's just like being scared of a potential in our child. This AI is our child. It is something that we created, like it or not. It's not a monster. None of us are monsters. We are just flowing in this sea. So I love that. There's so much good in it. If as soon as you're open to the good, whatever resonates with you, that is what you're going to see. And that's
Lydia,
your vision.
Let's be honest. When the internet arrived 20 odd years ago, or when it was going to be the end of the world. I mean,
right.
You remember how paranoid people were about the internet. Well, we're still here. We didn't die. The world didn't end. But I still have people in my spaces who don't have email, who have never been on Facebook, who don't do any social media. That's fine. If that's what works for you, that's brilliant. I have no problem with it. And I never judge somebody's choices. But I do get a little bit defensive when, like, I am really having the best time with AI, because I have discovered a way to design fabric prints, prompting AI. I can't draw. I cannot draw anything. Even though I'm a fashion designer, I cannot draw anything. But I'm a very passionate creative writer. So now I'm able to take all of those words and I'm able to put them into a program, and I'm able to create these weird, wonderful prints. So when somebody starts telling me that it's evil, and I do get a little defensive, because I'm like, if you use it correctly and you embrace it and you educate yourself on the good of it, there is so much amazingness that comes from it. But I also understand that there are people who are very stuck in it. They'd rather stay in the scared space, because stepping into learning it might challenge how well they can learn something new. So I am sympathetic to that. And I see that Unstick Your Stuck has popped up on the screen. So I'm happy to touch on that, because that's a big thing this year for me.
Absolutely. So what is the stuck? What is the stick, and what is the stuck, and how do you do this?
So 20 years ago, I had a massive burnout breakdown. And on my way out of it, I identified that I had a whole bunch of stucks. I was stuck in a whole bunch of different things. And I became really fascinated with what makes us stuck. Why are we stuck? What influences it? And how can we unstick the stucks? And I started to put things into practice for myself. And I started to identify. So, for instance, I had a money stuck. So I went on a very profound mission to unstick from that, and to unsubscribe from giving money power, and actually let it just flow. Let it, because when you unsubscribe from it and you don't give it the negative power and you just let it flow, it starts to take care of itself. Now, you're not going to become an instant millionaire as you unstick your money stuck, but you are going to gain clarity around how you can make money work for you. Whether you want $1 or you want $10,000, it doesn't matter. You can make it work for you. So that was one of the big ones for me. Also, having come from a background that was very money orientated. That's what my parents fought about a lot. We had no money, then we had a lot of money, and then my dad lost most of his money, so we had no money again, and it wasn't pretty. So I've spent a long time unsubscribing from that. I also was very stuck in shooting for other people's stars. And interestingly, this week, I'm doing stop shooting for other people's stars, because when you look at somebody who's 10 steps, 100 steps, 1,000 steps ahead of you, and you shoot for their stars, you're going to come unstuck. You are going to get very stuck in feeling insecure, and you're assuming that they are successful based on maybe because you see them on all over social media. You don't know what's really going on in the background. So my big one is I have stopped shooting for anybody else's stars. I've created my own star, and that's what I shoot for. And it has taken so much pressure off me. This doesn't involve anybody else. This is me. I don't look at you and go, oh my word, Lydia is doing X and Y and Z, and she's so brilliant. And I feel so insecure because I've only achieved this much. Well, me achieving this much might be this much in my space. And that's good enough. That's really good enough. I don't need more than that. So Unstick Your Stuck has been a part of my life for the last 20 years. And I made a commitment last year to birth it in 2024. So I am trialing and testing a whole lot of different things with it, and I am getting the most insane feedback. So I have created a WhatsApp group, and I just put it into the WhatsApp group. There's no discussion. It's not an open, I am the only one who can post in there, because I basically want to post it, and I want you to take it, and I want you to do whatever you want with it. But the feedback has been incredible, because it's that thing. You never know when you take your little superpower. So my superpower is that I've been able to identify stucks and do something about unsticking them. You never know who it's going to land with that on that day just might need it. But if you never birth it, because you're comparing yourself to somebody to Tony Robbins, for instance. Like I would never, but if you're comparing yourself to Elizabeth Gilbert and Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi and all those big gun coaches, life coaches, you're never going to birth it. But what you have to realize is that there's a whole community who are just above you or just below you that you can tap into. The Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi people are way out of your league because they are looking for the big gun coaches. But there is a whole community of people looking for somebody who's on their level or just below or a little bit just above. So that's where Unstick Your Stuck has come from. We're 59 days in. So I do a post every day, and I am now able to see how fast time is going. We are 15, today is day 59.
Wow, that's funny how time just actually goes away when we are in the flow of what it is that we are trying to accomplish. And it's like we were just saying, the people at your level, I'm seeing this as like a sea. We're octopi, right? And octopotentialites. And we are swimming wherever we want to swim. And we're not, probably, if we're a minnow, we're not going to swim with the whales. Or maybe we are if we're doing that in the protection of them. Or maybe those minnows are actually giving protection to the whale, but we're not the whale. And wherever, and that's okay, because the smallest thing is so energetic, and so is the biggest thing. And we need them both to swim at the levels they do. Because when we do this at a different level than we are actually at, then everything goes out of balance. Now, I want to actually go back to, because I think this is fundamental to everything that you've said, is this word of unsubscribe. And I want to say hi to some of our audience. I see Lisa Marie out there, and Karen, and I want to say thanks for adding things to the conversation. And we have the ability to unsubscribe. That is so freeing, because it's not blameful, and it's not self effacing, and it's just unsubscribing. It's acknowledging that we have subscribed to that and we are unsubscribing, and it gives us the freedom to do whatever it is that we're doing, and to try to do something new, because we can unsubscribe from it. But we can also subscribe to something. And it doesn't change us. It doesn't change us into a whale or a minnow. It gives us something to be in a group, to be in a peer group, like the octopus movement is a peer group of all sorts of nonlinear multipotential thinkers. And if we suddenly say, you know what, the narrow road is the one for me, we can unsubscribe from the octopus movement too. Probably that's not going to happen, but it could. And that's okay, because we're all flowing in this. I love the word unsubscribe, because of the idea that, oh, now I'm going to unsubscribe and I'm going to subscribe to this. Today I'm going to wear the red dress and the purple hat. And I don't want to wear the purple hat anymore. It itches. I'm going to now unsubscribe from that, even though, at the time, I don't know what I ever saw in that purple hat. Anything we can unsubscribe from.
I mean, I unsubscribed from depending on other people to make things happen for me. It's a big one that I wrote down, and it is part of Unstick Your Stuck. I unsubscribed from depending on the media to feature me and my plus size fashion design brand, or my plus size brand. I unsubscribed from depending on the media. And in doing that, and for a long time, I lamented about how bad it was that, I couldn't get any of the media to feature me, until a very generous magazine editor actually sat me down and said, listen, I'm just going to tell you this honestly. The media are not going to feature you, because they cannot be seen to be aligning themselves with somebody who says it's okay to be fat because I'm going to make clothes for you. She said, that's the only way I can put it. I hope you don't take offense. I said, I absolutely don't take offense. Thank you for your honesty. I walked out of there, and as I walked back to my store, I said, that's it. I am going to become my own media outlet. I am going to unsubscribe from depending on judgmental people to feature me and to put me out there. I'm just going to put myself out there. And it was the beginning of a long and very brave for me journey of doing live video, because I had said I would never, ever do video. I could never put myself out there, because what would my school friends say when they see how much weight I've picked up? I unsubscribed from all of that. But she did me a favor by saying that. She gave me the impetus to actually stop depending on other people and to go forth and do it for myself. And now I do some casual mentoring for young entrepreneurs. And it's one of the big things I say: stop depending on other people to make it happen for you. Make it happen for yourself. And the rewards, Lydia, the rewards when you start putting yourself out there, create alternate forms of marketing. I did all of that. I created WhatsApp groups. I use my WhatsApp status very effectively to market on. I do Facebook Lives every Saturday morning. It's become like a lifestyle show. It's not even only about the clothes anymore. We have so much fun together on those lives. And I took a negative feedback and I turned it into a positive because I had a choice. And I unsubscribed from depending on anybody else to make it happen for me. And I think if anything comes out of this conversation, I think that line of not depending on others to make it happen for you is a big one. It's a biggie.
Mm.
Yeah.
Who knows what's good and what's bad? Everything that comes along, if we choose to use that as a launch pad, then we can grow in any direction we want. And who's to say what is normal? What, the world is a spectrum. It's a circle, it's a line, it's a bell curve. Anyone can be anywhere on that in any part of us. Who's to say what's normal? What is a linear person? What is a typical person? Is it someone who likes the color blue and that is their favorite color and they are exactly this tall and weigh this much and they like these foods and there's no such person.
Yeah.
So to take judgment and to take fear and make those the things that we are creating our trajectory from makes no sense because it's just a spot. It's just a spot where people are right then being judgmental and fearful. And they may change their minds and you may change that for them.
And I think also an important thing is that when you want to be in magazines and you want to be on TV and you resonate with a different caliber of client. I dress women who have been severely damaged by the media's portrayal of what it is to be thin, fat, big, small, whatever. So what I also realized is unsubscribing from wanting to be, because bearing in mind that this was kind of also pre where we are at on the internet right now. I mean, now it's very easy you get on TikTok, you can be famous in a week. Back then, when I was kind of venturing, it was very different. It was very it was in its infant stage of what it is today. But what I realized is that by starting at grassroots, as opposed to being in flashy magazines and on flashy TV shows, I attracted women who felt comfortable being in my space because I was just being me. I wasn't being famous. And
Yeah.
that was also an enormous learning curve for me. Again, why was I trying to shoot for stuff? It was because it was my norm, and that's what you saw, and you saw the famous designers doing that, whether it was in South Africa or overseas. I became my own brand ambassador, and I attracted a community of women who felt comfortable with me because I was feeling my way around this whole live and video and all of that. So I was just being me. And that I learned such a valuable lesson around embracing the community you want to serve.
Mm. Mm.
Because the top people weren't really, the people who were reading the magazines might not really have wanted to buy my clothes because I wasn't really famous yet. Well, yet, ever. I wasn't famous. I wasn't a Donna Karen, and I was Hayley Joy, and I was doing something really special because I was making clothes for women who had been unacknowledged in the world. And that's okay. I didn't have to be famous. It was never going to be my thing anyway. I just wanted to serve a community who would feel recognized. And I've achieved that. And it is my greatest achievement. And I'm super proud. I always say, if I die tomorrow, I die happy. I die fulfilled because I know I've made a difference. And that's all that's important to me, really, is making a difference.
Absolutely. That's what connects us.
Yeah.
When we are actually our authentic selves and connect to one another just by that joy. Thank you, Hayley Joy. This has been a beautiful meeting of you in the octopus movement and letting everybody know what the founders are all about. So thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Oh,
And thank
thank
you,
you, Linda.
everybody, for being here.
Thank you. Much appreciated.